Hello, everybody. It's George from Ireland. Welcome back to the channel. Well, Angela Rayner, she's had her feet under the desk for almost a week now, and she's often likened herself to John Prescott because he was Deputy Prime Minister for 10 years under Tony Blair. Said to be reassuring to old Labour voters in as much as he was identifiably working class from the Wirral, had that Merseyside accent, though he sat for Hull East. Now, Angela Rayner comes from not too far away from Merseyside, comes from the greater Manchester area, and she represents a constituency just outside Manchester. And she never tires of telling us her sob story about her upbringing, which might be true. I don't know that her mother couldn't read, but so it runs in the family, Angela, and that her mother was a manic depressive, and Angela had to sleep on the same bed as her mother all the time to stop her mother taking her own life and stuff like this. And Angela failed all her GCSEs and blah blah blah. She had a child at 16, although it's actually a happy event. Some people want to have a child, never achieve that. I mean, I don't think having a child at 16 is always a bad thing. I wouldn't generally advise it, and not teenage mothers aren't necessarily bad ones, just as middle-aged mothers aren't automatically fantastic ones. Um, and so on. What else? Yeah, both very involved in the trades unions. So these are two losers who've managed to fail their way upwards just because of the trades unions. So there she was, a care worker, and it's a respectable job. Of course, we have to have care workers. How would we cope if we didn't have them? Yeah, so she was hyper aggressive in the trades unions. She was elected to parliament at the age of 35. And there we go. She's got three children. She's been married, divorced, used her ex-husband's surname. Her boyfriend was Sam Tarry, another Labour MP, has been deselected. I don't know if she's still with him or not. But yeah, John Prescott, well, a stranger role model perhaps. John Prescott, two Jags, who was notorious for indulging himself at public expense, was grossly hypocritical, who encouraged people to use cars less and used his car to go 200 meters, and then he said it was for security reasons and because of my wife's hairdo. Well, I mean, make up your mind. This is the one thing. If you're given one excuse, it might have been credible, but if you give two or more, it certainly isn't. Anyway, what else about Prescott? So he was always an embarrassment to his party, and he was always mangling his words, just like Angela Rayner. I misspeak sometimes. Everybody gets it wrong occasionally, but these two get it wrong an awful lot. So yeah, I think he's really not the sort of person to aspire to be, who notoriously punched someone and punched him. And okay, that was self-defensive, but he was under no threat. He's got his bodyguards around him. Um, and was wasting public, when he was on our time, on our dime, playing croquet. He loved the trappings of office, even though Blair said we're not here to enjoy the trappings of office. In these grace in the favour apartments in an Admiralty Arch and things like that. So there's some unseemly squabbling amongst Labour about who's going to get Dorneywood and what's it called? Is it Chevening? These various things that the Chancellor Exchequer usually gets Dorneywood, which is by the Thames, is actually a bit north of Eton, because there was a peer there who gave it to the nation in the late 1940s in his will. He died childless. And then the other one I can't remember is in the Kent countryside, which is usually the foreign secretaries, foreign and Commonwealth and development secretaries country retreat. But they might have a flat share. She came in a rather unflattering green trouser suit that cost 500 quid. Well, Angela Rayner, she really is despicable and contemptible. And see people say, I remember class act as undergraduate at Oxford University, trying to get more working class people to attend varsity, saying, "Oh well, stop telling working class people how to dress." And I wouldn't. You wear whatever you want. I don't care. Spend as much as you like. But it is really unedifying if you're then saying, "Oh, I care so much about poverty." Give some of your own money to the poor. That's why I've always smelt a rat with these champagne socialists. Angela Rayner was on a salary of 90 grand and professing her compassion for people who are impecunious as she once was, but never gives a penny to them. I mean, she certainly wanted to blow her own trumpet. And Tony Blair made tens of millions since he left the prime ministership, and gave nary a bean to any worthy cause that I know of. And there are just numerous examples of this. Tony Benn died a multimillionaire. He didn't give a penny to the penniless. He gave it all to his all very wealthy children, a house worth a few million quid, and. There are just multiple examples of that. So they don't practice what they preach. Obviously, just don't believe in it. Socialism doesn't work for the socialists. So how can it work for anybody else? And Angela Rayner, you know, she said she spent thousands of quid buying herself new tits when she was 30. Or, I mean, I don't question her right to do so or object to anyone doing so. I mean, I've always preferred natural ones myself. But I don't think I'll have a chance to feel hers anytime in the foreseeable future. However, if you really care about those who are suffering, wouldn't it be a worthier cause to give some of that to the poor rather than splash all on a boob job? Was it unbecoming of her to tell us that she did this? Many people find her relatable. Her brassiness, her vulgarity is alluring to some people, but she's manifestly completely unsuitable for the office that she occupies. She's a national disgrace. To think her figure could be on the nuclear button. You know, if Keir Starmer dies or if he has to be sedated for an operation or something like that, or he's out of the country, is up to her. And that is horrifying. My God. So she's a sort of a left-wing version of Trump. Now, but there are people in the Labour cabinet who are respectable and who've thoroughly earned their positions. Take Rachel Reeves, very well prepared to be Chancellor, absolutely no slouch intellectually. Even her most implacable foe wouldn't doubt her academic record. She's got a double first in PPE from Oxford and so on. She worked for the Bank of England for years, and I know someone who's a colleague of hers at the time, held her in very high regard. So she's very well prepared for that office. And the same could go with various other people. Annalise Dodds, who I think she also read PP at Oxford, also got a double first, got a doctorate as well, though not from Oxford. And she was president of the Students' Union, if I remember. So, or Kirsten McNeil, likewise at Balliol College, Oxford, PPEist, and the rest, and so worked in relevant sectors and things like that. So there are people who are really know what they're talking about and very capable people, and that's definitely not the case with Angela Rayner. Now, I know being academic background can be overrated. Look at John Major, ignoramus, imbecile, but he was not as disastrous a prime minister as Liz Truss, who was a highly educated person. So I know education isn't everything. So I don't think people should be required to have any academic qualifications to be a member of parliament or maybe even to sit in the cabinet. But to be right at the top of it, it's surely unsuitable because it's about ability to absorb information, to make a reasoned judgment, to sustain an argument, to perceive the weaknesses of one's own argument, to understand ambiguity and so on. And these are all cognitive skills which are honed by undergoing a scholarly education, of which Angela Rayner has got very, very little. And she's just not very well informed about the rest of the world. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is at play. People of limited cognitive ability are unable to understand their own limitations, whilst those who are very gifted are often unaware of just how gifted they are, partly because they rub shoulders with people of that ilk and they don't realize just how above average they are. Well, anyway, thank you for watching my channel. John Prescott, remember, he was accused by some women of sexual assault. Now, I don't know that to be true. Even he deserves a presumption of innocence. But he's a strange icon for the Labour Party after the Me Too movement, which they've embraced fervently, that any man who's accused is immediately branded a pervert. Anyway, he's bowed out of the House of Lords. He hasn't turned up for a whole parliamentary term. He's now 86. He's lost the ability to speak. Well, thank you, heaven, for this blessed asylum. But anyway, I've heard he's not long for this world. He's probably going to die quite soon. Thank you for watching the channel. Goodbye, everybody.